We are live.
Kia ora tātou. We'll resume our meeting with item 10 on the agenda, which is the quarterly update on significant central government reform programs. I note this is the receiving report. So I will just start by moving that we do receive the report. Do I have a seconder to receive the report? Thank you, Councillor Noonan. I'll just get you to vote now to receive the report. All those in favour? Thank you, that is carried. Welcome, Ailish, to the meeting. I think you are the author of this report. So we'll take the report as read. If there are any corrections or additions that you would like to make, then we'll take those now. Kia ora.
Kia ora. Thank you. Through the chair, I have no corrections or amendments to make it this time. We have some staff who contributed to the report who can speak to the particular topics if there are any questions.
All right, thank you, Ailish. We have had some updates, I think, on Three Waters process since the report was written. From memory, it's now been gone into the House. So is that your topic, or will I direct those questions to someone else, or the updates to someone else?
Through the chair, so Alec can speak to those.
G'day, start with those updates, I think. Thank you.
I'll see what I can do. And there were a number of questions through from Councillor Courtney through the mayor, and I'll wait for Councillor Courtney to raise those, or would Councillor Courtney like me to address those?
I'll go to Councillor Courtney in a moment, but we'll just do the update and then I'll start on the questions. So I'll go up to Councillor Courtney, or Councillor Edgar and then Councillor Courtney. So if you would just like to, I'm aware, I think we're all aware, just for the that subsequent to the report being written, the Three Waters legislation has been introduced into the House. It's had its first reading, I believe, and has now been directed to Select Committee. So I was expecting those updates today from the officers.
That's correct. I'm not sure I can add anything other than that. Other than we are working with, we have our core Three Waters team, and we're looking at how we are going to engage with our community on this particular issue.
Right, Alec, can you remind me what date submissions need to be in by?
I am looking for
22nd.
Pip, can you?
Yeah, through the chair, it's the 20th of July, the due date.
Right, go to questions. I'll go to Councillor Edgar and then I'll go to Councillor Courtney.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, so with submissions closing in less than a month, so I assume we're going to be kicking off our community engagement. Could we get an update on that process, please?
So at this stage, through the chair, we're looking at commencing our engagement around about the 29th of June, followed by a session on the 30th of June, and we're potentially looking at in-person in the council chamber on Wednesday, the 29th of June, followed by the 30th of June, and in person in the chamber, and then having an extended period from about 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. on Zoom. The speaking times, we're thinking of giving 5 minutes for individuals and 10 minutes for organizations. And we're busy working through the administration around that. And then at the end of that, allowing councillors to join in at the end of those, so that they can get their views on the bill as well. And that will all go into a submission that council will be putting in. We have made it very clear that individuals can make individual submissions, but we will be hearing those submissions and then putting in and building that into a council submission, which we will be bringing back to council.
Look, with apologies, I'm struggling to hear you. I don't know if anyone else is. My thing is up at 100%, so I can't turn you up any further.
Sorry, can I just clarify, is everybody else struggling or is it just you, councillor?
You are a little bit crackly. It's a bit hard to hear you. Alec, I can hear you okay, but you're not clear.
Okay,
Maybe the microphone's just not in the right spot. Oh no, you haven't got that.
I've got headphones.
Headphones, okay.
So I haven't changed anything, but I'll speak a little bit louder. Do you
That's
want me
great.
to recap that, councillor?
Yeah, well, because I thought I heard you say that we'll start our engagement on the 29th, but that's in 2 weeks' time. But then you also said that 29th is when people will have an opportunity to speak. So I assume we will start earlier so people know about those speaking sessions, and maybe just a recap of there's speaking sessions, but there's also other opportunities to provide feedback, isn't there?
So, so through the chair, obviously we planning. What I said was that we're planning to have sessions on Wednesday the 29th and Thursday the 30th. Obviously, we're going to be getting comms out. This has all happened very, very quickly, but we're going to be getting comms out so that people will know that they can actually contact us and come in and join those sessions to give us their views. And what we're planning on at this moment is on the 29th of June, we'll run a session from about 2 to 5, and we're thinking of an in-person in the chamber. And then on Thursday, the 30th of June, between 2 and 5, in-person in the council chamber. And then for those who can't join in person, between 6 and 8 on Zoom. And then we need to figure out how we involve councillors in those views so that we can collate all of that information and then put that into a submission that we will then bring back to council before we submit it. But clearly, to prepare for the 29th of June, we need to get our comms out, and we're busy working with Kim and Paul to make sure that we get that information out in advance of those 2 days. So that is what is scheduled at the moment,
Okay, and I guess just to clarify, people don't have to speak to us in person at those sessions to be able to have a say.
That's correct. They can put their views down in any other format. But we just wanted to give. We did initially indicate that we would hear from people, and we want to give people that opportunity that if they want to be heard via in person or in Zoom, that we would give them that opportunity.
Yeah, I guess I'm just thinking of those who don't want to speak to us. Not everyone does. So it can be a bit intimidating or a bit much. Or they're just not available. So we'll have something up on Shape Nelson to enable people to be able to provide, so they know the avenues for providing their feedback.
Correct, yes.
Thank
Lovely.
you. I just see Paul's just joined the meeting, but what I'm going to suggest is that as this is a receiving report, Paul's, I think, circulated by email a bit of an engagement plan, and I think it'll be good just to follow up laying that out now. The dates are there and you've got the dates, right? Otherwise I think we could be here for an hour just running through that aspect. So I just would note, Alec, that I think the plan is providing a range of options to gather the views of our community to inform our submission, and that will also be informed by an officer report presumably as well on the substance of the bill, and that will make its way through to finally to the final submission. But I just think that point is quite important, that people can submit directly to Select Committee, and I think that is built into the engagement plan that Mr. Shattuck has prepared.
Absolutely, it is, and I'm sorry if if you hear me, but I said exactly that. Yes, people that are wanting to submit directly can. They can also come and speak to us. We will take their views into account. We will prepare a submission, and that will come to council for sign-off. And we've got a very short time frame to do that all, but we have a plan, and we have the team behind us that will make that happen.
Right, okay. I'm going to go to Councillor Courtney because he is next. But the only thing I just wanted to clarify is when I heard you the first time, it sounded as though you're going to hear from the public and then hear from elected members, but in fact you won't hear from elected members until after you collate that information and they hear the officer's advice and receive the report, and then the elected members' views will be their decision on the submission, which will be our normal process. So Councillor Courtney, thank you.
Sorry, I just have one more question, if I can, Madam Mayor. It was just if there was any updates on the Strategic Planning Act. sorry, just make sure I've got the act right. Anyway, just around whether Nelson, Tasman, Marlborough, that side of the legislation for our spatial plans and our built environment plans, if there was any update on those boundaries. There may not be.
Any officer would like to speak to that one? Maxine, thank you.
Kia ora, everybody. No, there has been no sort of formal word from the ministry yet about that. They have been looking at options and have talked about several options about whether or not there's a regional plan that's Nelson Tasman, Marlborough, or just singular councils. So we've yet to get a decision from them.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Courtney.
Thank you, Mayor Rachel. I contacted Elise last evening with a number of questions, and she passed them on to Officer Libertus, who very kindly, very early this morning, responded to those questions. And I asked them, and I'd like him to run through them, but I asked them to just shine a light, if you like, and to acknowledge from the governance point, so we can acknowledge from the governance point of view and appreciate the workload that the establishment of the Three Waters Entity C and all matters related to that placing on the workload of our senior management team and staff generally throughout the building. And so I'd be grateful, Mr. Libertus, if you would just go through those one by one. For example, the last question one, what was the total number of council employees that are directly or indirectly involved in this Three Waters proposal? And it was 20. Now that was a shock to me. So when we want responses to to different projects and whether they're on time or they're not on time, I think it's very much in our interests to respect, acknowledge and appreciate what extra work our staff are doing in this regard. So I'd really take up your offer, Mr. Libertus, to just run through those questions, please.
Yes, I can, Councillor Courtney. So Councillor Courtney posed a number of questions to us, and the first question was he wanted to know the number of council staff involved in the internal project team established to build relations with the National Transition Group. So I'll use this opportunity to update council in terms of what's actually happening behind the scenes, and there's quite a lot of work happening behind the scenes, and I need to reiterate that this is a substantial amount of work, and I know that our chief executive and our mayor have also been involved in this, and I'm not even too sure that they can actually count the hours that they've been involved. But in terms of the staff, there are currently, it's currently myself. So I attend the National Transition Unit. I am sitting as the representative on the Asset Management Operations and Stormwater Transition Group. We call that the AMOS Group. And I'm also sitting on the Sub-Stormwater Group. The Sub-Stormwater Group reports to the AMOS Group. And I am probably spending about 4 to 5 hours a week attending either of those two committees. We also have Stephanie Vincent, the Manager People and Capability, who attends the People and Workforce Transition Reference Group. So we sit side by side, and she's probably spending about 4 to 5 hours of that a week, and then probably double that in terms of the work that she needs to undertake. We also have a special Three Waters group that we've set up, and that's to deal with Lagoimas. Granted, we haven't had too many Lagoimas of late, but previously we've had heaps of them, and we've needed to make sure that we have a core council group that addresses all their issues relating from finance to resourcing to infrastructure. And there's about 8 people that sit on that group, and we meet weekly. Then sitting behind the scenes, I indicated to Councillor Courtney, there's about 20. So there's requests for information that have come through that we've had to address. There are requests for information that are still to come through, and we are waiting for those requests, and we are gearing up to be able to get that information to the National Transition Unit as soon as we can. And little things like the Better Off funding. There's been a lot of work by Pip and her team in terms of just getting that workshop material through to you. There's a lot of work that's actually happening behind the scenes as well. And but all in all, there's about 20 people, and there's a lot of work happening. So Councillor Courtney, I think that probably is a good summary in terms of all your
I think it's a very good summary through you, Madam Mayor, but except I asked where would the costs fall?
Yes, indeed.
And I'd like you to respond to that too.
So in terms of the costs, all costs for time spent at the moment are borne by council, and therefore obviously funded by rates. Obviously in due course, we hope to be able to access government funding that we can offset that. But for example, I haven't been keeping 100% track of my hours, but I know that it is substantial, and I don't know if we'll be able to recover hours spent to date, but we're hoping that we will be able to cover hours going forward, but it is substantial.
Thank you. I'll just go up to Pat. He's got his hand up.
So part of the time spent was when the government did its DIA'd its deep dive into our financial and asset management information to come up with the case. So when they were developing the case for change, now we're having people involved because it's important they understand our information, understand our priorities, and it's also a chance for staff to raise their own profile with these establishment entities and improve their chances for future employment in senior roles. One of the challenges that is being faced at the moment is because I'm on the same steering committee as the mayor, that there's also an Entity C's Chief Executives group that meets on a more frequent basis to liaise with the National Transition Unit. But there are multiple points of contact into our organisation now in terms of information flows. And one of the things as Chief Executives we really want to get our grip on is understanding that flow of information and understanding what the plan is going forward. How is this organisation going to be stood up on 1 July 2024, and what will they be expecting councils to do in the meantime? Still a lot of work to do. Yeah, thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Mayor Rachel.
Thank you, Councillor Courtney. Any further questions on the report? Okay, Councillor Sanson, did you have your hand up before? No, I must have missed that.
I had it, but I removed it because my question was answered by the officers.
Okay, thank you. All right, no further questions. Well, in that case, the report has already been received, and so that concludes that item. So thank you everyone for the work that you put into the report. There's an awful lot going on, isn't there? Huge amount of work actually in progress, being developed, waiting for future local government reports. There's all sorts of things happening, so it's a very busy space for everybody. And thank you, Councillor Courtney, just for acknowledging that with your questions to Mr. Levertis in regard to the work that his team has been doing. Well, that concludes our meeting today. I believe we have finished all of the items. I think we have, just as we're closing today, I just want to, Pat, I just want to note, thank you very much for the communication that's gone out today and for your leadership of Nelson City Council. You've got a lot more to do yet, but I just want to acknowledge you've advised the staff today that you will not be seeking an extension of that 5-year extension of your 5-year process, and we've put out a media release to the public about that. But I just want to acknowledge Pat today for the enormous amount of work that you've been doing. I know you'll continue to do, and it'll be another day when we do the full reflection on what you're doing. But I just want to acknowledge that and I know the staff will be, they'll be you've got a really great team. You'll continue to support that team, and we'll work through the next steps. And I know that whatever happens next for you, you're going to be, you'll shine. You'll be, I'm absolutely sure of that. So just want to thank you very much. So I will close today, and I think we should have a go at all saying tuia together, because that is going to be your punishment for how long this meeting has gone. So, right, microphone's on, and we're going to go with tuia. So it's starting off day. Tuia, kia ora. Tuia, kia ora. Kia ora. Kia ora. Kia ora.
Tangata.
Ronga te po. Ke ronga te ao. Kia ora.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much to April and Robin behind the scenes, who have been doing a marathon again. So thank you very much, Robin and April.
We made it. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks. Are you still there, Judy? No, she's run away. She's gone.